Welcome to the Upside Podcast, where we help you get unstuck in your life and your business by provoking meaningful change from the inside out. And I have a guest today. I am so very excited to have my dear friend in the house with me today, Brett Caldwell.
Hello.
We were just talking about how far back we go,
Yeah.
and I'm really excited to have you as one of my first guests on here because you have been truly inspirational and influential in my life
Well, thank you.
and in my leadership journey. I believe you took a chance on me back in 2013 when you offered me a role as your assistant team leader at Dallas Preston Road, and that forever changed my life.
Well, thank you.
And my
It
family's
changed
life.
my life as well.
Well, I don't know if that's good or bad, but
Yeah. I'm here, aren't I?
well, that is a good point. That is a good point. So, but you are, you're an incredible leader. And actually, I was in the office yesterday and Ben Baker walked into my office and I said, "Hey, I'm interviewing Brett tomorrow for the Upside." I said, "What question do I need to ask?" And he kind of paused for a second and he said, "Well, I don't know what the question is," but he said, "I can tell you what Brett's superpower is." And he said his superpower is the ability to go really deep with people and to pull out things and to pull out greatness that they didn't even realize was there.
Oh, well, Ben, I appreciate that. And Teresa, it's an honor to be here. I know you've got lots of questions, but just the fact that you asked me means a lot.
Well, it was funny because we were driving to school today. Jet was in the car with me. And I said, "Well, Brett's coming on my podcast today." And she goes, "Oh, did he come in town just for that?" And I was like, "Well, no, he's here for Mega Leadership."
Yeah.
I said, "I don't think he'd probably come in just to film an episode of The Upside." And
Why?
she goes, "Well, he should. He has friends here." I said, "Well, that's true." So anyway, we have a big event for Keller Williams this week. And so I immediately thought, okay, who's coming into town? I thought I want to snag while you're here and get you in the studio live. So
Let's do it.
okay, well, let's have a fun conversation and really a leadership conversation. I just want to dig into a little bit your philosophy on leadership because I think you are a great people developer. When it comes down to it, leadership entails a lot of things. But as Ben said, you're a great people developer. That is your superpower. So give us a little bit, like, what's your philosophy on leadership? Do you think leaders are born or are they made?
They're both, but from a philosophy standpoint, I got to kind of tell the story a little bit because, everybody doesn't just wake up one day and go, "Hey, I want to be a leader." The word leader or leadership is kind of a vague word in a sense, but where it really kind of developed inside of me was somebody tapped me on the shoulder at one point in time and said, "Hey, I believe in you. I think you can do this role." But there was a gentleman named Doug Trumbull, if anybody knows Doug.
Do you know Doug?
And ironically, he handed
Texas.
Texas.
Yes. So you're always in the Pledge of Allegiance. That's like my favorite Doug memory.
I don't think I ever knew there was a Texas Pledge of Allegiance until I met Doug.
It's a thing. Yeah.
He handed me a book, and the book he handed me was titled Leadership by the Book, written by a guy named Ken Blanchard. It's a really, really, really old book. And I read it, and it really, really gave me a paradigm shift on what I believed leadership was.
Now, was this back when you were in title? Or is that where you already been to Keller Williams?
Leaving title,
Okay.
and I was becoming an assistant team leader.
Okay.
And he handed me this book because I was assistant team leader to his wife. So
Yeah.
he wanted his
He
wife
was like,
back.
"Hey, step it up in your leadership, Brett."
But the book gave me a deep understanding of what the term servant leadership really is. And I think leadership, as I said, was a vague term. So some people get the title of leader, but that doesn't mean they subscribe or show up as a servant leader. It just means, hey, I'm the boss. You better do what I say.
Mhm.
I could live in an autocratic world. But I believe my philosophy, as you were asking, real leadership stems from this concept of servant leadership. And it's not a Christian book, but it uses the parable of Jesus in the book to kind of help tell the story or define what real servant
Mhm.
leadership is. And it changed my paradigm. And to me, if philosophy is the question on leadership, it's how do you show up and serve people?
Mm.
And then we can keep going, but that's really how I developed my whole perspective on what leadership is. So, and it was such a powerful message that I wanted to step into it.
Wow.
and move in that direction.
And what's so powerful about that is somebody just gave you a book, and sometimes it's the simplest things, but the core book that somebody believed in you and saw something in you. And I think you have paid that back multiple times to so many people.
And the thing is, sometimes you read a book and I couldn't quote the book. All I know is the book gave me a understanding of servant leadership.
Yeah.
There wasn't like an action or any kind of major concept in the book outside of the perspective of
Yeah.
what servant leadership
I
is.
don't remember if it was John Maxwell, but I pretty much will just give him credit for anything good I hear
Yeah.
on leadership because I figured it probably originated there. But I heard somebody say that the way you know if you're a servant leader is how you respond when someone treats you like one. And I was like, oh, wow. Like
Mhm.
when someone treats you like a servant, how do you respond in pride? Do you respond in offense?
Yes,
And that really is the true test if we're operating as a servant leader.
correct.
Okay, so let's back up just a second. So you got your start in the title world. That's how we met, actually, back when I was at First American Home Warranty.
Yep.
And
Actually, I think we met before that. I was an agent at Keller Williams Plano,
that's right. You were there
for 6,
first
7 years.
because you were one of the first people that called me when I was brand new. I was
Yep.
21 years old. And you called me and you said, hey, call me back. I want to find out why First American's better than anything else. And you had like this low voice and you kind of sounded intimidating to me. And I really at the time barely knew why it was better than anything else.
Yeah.
And so you were one of kind of the first agents that I gave a quote unquote sales pitch to.
Oh, that's fun.
But it worked. I think you started sending me business. So I must have been.
Well, I don't remember that phone call.
Yeah, well, it was, yeah, I remember because it kind of scared me a little
Oh,
bit.
okay.
But anyways, neither here nor there. Okay, so yeah, so you started at KW Plano. Then you went title.
And then I went to Republic Title of Texas, which, when I was in Keller's Plano, originally it was Susan Hubeck and then Georgia Alpazar was
Yeah.
the team leader. And then my first real like professional growth probably happened at Republic Title because there was a lady named Lynn Lyncher, who's one of the most powerful leaders, if
Oh,
we're
what a
talking
great-
about leadership,
Yeah.
that I think I've ever met, right? And
What made her such a great leader? Because I knew
exactly
Lynn watching from the outside, and I always said if I moved at the time, if I go work for title, I'd go work for Lynn.
she developed people.
Yeah.
And literally woke up every day with the goal of developing the people that were in her influence.
Okay. All right. So then you moved to Keller Williams as an assistant team leader
Correct?
and then moved into a team leader role
Sure.
at Dallas Preston Road. And then now you're in Atlanta, Georgia, running
Yeah.
7 market centers,
Yep.
have stepped into a whole new realm of leadership.
Yep.
So you've had a really progressive journey,
I
right?
have.
Throughout the years of just things kind of building upon each other. What is the biggest mindset shift you think somebody needs to have to really step into leadership and to really being a people developer?
The mindset shift is there's a quote by Maya Angelou that says, the more people you help get what they want, the more you will actually get what you want in return. And if you think of this concept of merging this principle of servant leadership in that quote,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to take that quote to heart. And if you show up and really believe to be a people developer and you really look at your life and go, and man, I need to go out there and help all these people get what they want and just trust you'll get yours in the end, it'll happen.
Yeah.
It may not happen exactly the way you wanted it to. It may not happen on your time frame, on
Rarely on our time frame.
economic.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're trying to make it happen on your time frame and your economic expectations, you're probably coming with ego or some self-fulfilled motive.
Mm.
But if you really show up as a servant leader and say, man, my role in life is to go help all these people get what they need out of their life, you have to trust you'll get yours in the end.
Well, you really believed in me when you hired me as your ATL. So at
Yep.
the time, my twins were 1. So I was a little still overwhelmed with life, right? But I knew my time where I was at First American Home Warranty at that point, and I was stressed and bored, which I would say is a horrible combination. Either be stressed and challenged because you're growing, or be bored and stress-free, but like
Yep.
stressed and bored is a horrible combination. And I knew my time there was kind of coming to an end, but I had no real clue what was next for me. And you were that tap on the shoulder for me.
Yeah.
And
It didn't go that easy though.
well, that's true.
Yeah.
I did not say yes immediately.
Yeah.
Um, okay, you tell the story because I want to hear what you say.
Uh-oh. Well, honestly,
We'll see if we have the same story.
I was the operating principal in Rockwall, Texas,
Yep.
and I was actually looking for the team leader of Rockwall, Texas.
Yep.
And you were on a short list of people that I wanted to talk to. And of course, so I call you and basically give me the Heisman of like, not, no way, no hell,
Yeah, I was pretty
not
clear.
happening.
I had a lot of clarity. I was like, thank you, no.
No. Could you said, oh, you need to call my husband.
I did.
Long story short, I ended up hiring Tommy in that team leader role in Rockwall.
Yeah, and the rest
And
is
then
history
you
there.
called me back 6 months later and said, okay, I'm open to talking to you now.
That's true. And what's interesting though is so Tommy had made the move to Keller Williams Rockwall as your team leader there. Coming from full-time ministry at a church, he also knew change was coming. We didn't know what that looked like and what was next. But he had been in mortgage, so he had some real estate experience, but really had leadership experience. That was really, in the church world, he knew how to develop people. And so I saw, though, him transition into a completely different role, and I saw how you developed him as a leader, right? And it looked very different to me after I saw him see success within his first 6 months, and I thought, maybe I do want to have a conversation around this. But I remember sitting with Michelle and you at that sushi place right there by Dallas Preston Road. Sort of an embarrassing story because it was technically a job interview because you were hiring your ATL. And you asked me the question. Do you remember that? You said, do you think you can do this job?
Yep.
Do you remember what I said?
No.
I said, I don't know. I
Okay.
looked you straight in the eye and I said, I don't know. And you looked at me and you said, well, I think you can.
Okay.
And you believed in me in that moment. And I mean, I just, for the record, would not recommend that anybody on a job interview say that. That was incredibly candid. And we had a long-time relationship, right?
Yeah.
It was whatever. But I was being very honest in that moment because I didn't necessarily know if that role was something, A, that I could do, that I would succeed at, that I would be good at. But you looked at me and said, I think you can.
So I don't know that we've ever talked about this. So this is interesting. I actually think you should say that in an interview.
Yeah.
Because I think you're being vulnerable.
Yeah.
I think you're being transparent. And I think those characteristics are really powerful characteristics inside of this entire conversation. I don't think you can lead people at a really high level if you're not vulnerable, if you're not transparent.
I mean, it was an authentic answer.
It was an authentic answer.
Yeah.
And it didn't scare me, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think you would want somebody really confident going, oh, I can crush this for you.
Right.
But I actually think your answer of saying, I don't know, actually probably pulled me towards you instead of somebody saying, oh, I'll crush it for you, which might have pushed me away going, man, they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And so inside of that conversation, it's still powerful, right?
I'm glad with you that it was the right answer.
Yes.
But that you believed in me in that moment. And, talking about people development. So one of the things that, when I worked for you at Dallas Preston Road.
Well, hang on. Do you know why I believed in you?
No, I guess I don't. I don't know if I do.
I'm
sure it was my
sitting there thinking,
hilarious personality.
Yeah, that too, obviously. Behavior was important, right? But you showed up in everything you did in life developing people. You showed up with a servant heart. You showed up with empathy. You showed up with all those characteristics that are necessary to succeed really well in a leadership role. But you also had one other thing that I think is kind of the downside of the home warranty industry, if you will.
Okay.
Your demeanor in dealing with crisis or challenging situations was always cool, calm, collected.
Thank you.
And I think that is probably an understated trait of great leaders because we all want to lead in good times.
Yeah.
But inevitably, there's going to be a crisis or a challenge or a heated emotional situation. And not all leaders show up really well in those. And to your credit, everything you did in home warranty was crisis challenger.
I mean, so and especially
Yeah.
back in the day, I think home warranties have really improved over time. But I mean, it was my favorite.
ACs and Texas.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the summer where I can't remember how many days of 100 straight degrees of heat we had, but it was a record summer. And some lady calling me because her parrot was hot. I mean, it was like
Yeah.
one thing after another. And I'm like, I don't know what to do about your parrot. Take your parrot to, I mean, it was challenging. Um, and then of course your differential, it's only like a 20. So people's ACs were cooling to 85. That's all they're built to do. Anyways, it was awful. But what actually loved about that job, and it's such an indication of how one season prepares you for the next.
Yes.
Right. And not to underestimate the little lessons that you learn, because that was part of the stress of the job, is people calling and yelling at you because crazy contractors or things weren't happening fast enough. But I did learn to deal with conflict, and I learned to de-escalate,
Yes.
and I learned how to be a hero in those scenarios when it's not going well.
But I
And
recognized all that
thank you.
about
I
you.
appreciate that. It was the school of hard knocks.
Yes. But I mean, if we're going to talk about leadership
Yeah.
and the perspective of leadership, that is a trait that great leaders possess.
Yeah.
And you brought that to the
Well,
table.
thank you. And
Whether you have the job or not, you still brought it to the table.
that's true. I was still, even if I couldn't do the job, I'd be cool about it.
There you go.
So, okay. So I wanted one of the scenarios that I remember, and I don't know what year this was, but we met on a regular basis to do a 411, which, if you're not familiar with that terminology in the Keller Williams world, it's basically a goal setting tool where you set annual goals, monthly goals, and then weekly goals. And I don't remember, and you probably don't remember this either. You've done many a 411 with people, but for some reason, and no doubt you challenged me to do this, to put riding a bike as my annual goal.
I remember a little bit of this because, 411 is a time management tool as much as a goal setting. It's
Sure,
basically an
yes.
accountability tracker. But there's two aspects to it. There's the business aspect, and there's also a personal side to it.
Yep.
And we were really great at having our business goals and tracking our business goals. But in this conversation, you kind of were weak, if I be honest, on what you had.
And always count on you to be honest. Yes,
And,
that's probably true.
and I think at the time what was going on in my life was I was learning this perspective that leaders do hard things.
Hmm.
And they constantly challenge themselves to do hard things because it creates a perspective of growth, and you always want to be in a perspective of growth. And I think I was asking you questions like, what scares you?
Uh-huh.
And I don't, a lot of our stories are just random, spontaneous questions and stories that create things. And I think you just looked at me and said, riding a bike. And then the whole conversation went from there.
So the
And
backstory
I
of
was
that.
just sitting there going, what? You don't ride a bike?
Yes, I know. That's everybody's going, what are you talking about? I don't ride bikes. So I did. And the last time I had ridden a bike prior to whatever year this was, 2014 or 2015, I rode it straight into a creek
Yeah.
over there at Chisholm Trail in Plano, and ended up at the sitting on my butt in the creek with a bruised up tailbone. And I will never forget, I was sitting there, in like a puddle of water. I mean, it's like the creek is literally like a foot deep.
Yeah.
I wasn't drowning or anything. And I remember thinking, I am never going to ride a bike again. I made a vow to myself, I will never ride a bike again because I'd already broken a finger. I'm kind of clumsy. I never really enjoyed it. Just whatever. It wasn't my thing. And so when you said that, I thought, but I've already vowed I would never do this again.
Yeah.
But I realized the power of making a vow out of fear, right? And then I put it on my annual list that I was going to ride a bike.
I remember.
And I didn't make a commitment to become a bike rider, just that I was going to ride a bike. And I would like everybody to know, just for the record, it is not once you've ridden a bike, you always remember how to do it. That's not actually a thing. I think Tommy still has that video. If I get really bold, I'll post it.
You should merge it into the video of this podcast.
I mean, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like I was like this. My girls were probably 4 at the time,
Oh, yeah.
fully capable of riding a bike. And they were like, thought it was the most ridiculous thing that I couldn't do it. But anyway, I think I waited to the end of December
Yeah.
to ride this bike.
Have you ridden a bike since?
No,
Okay, good. But you did.
no, but I did it.
You did it.
And
Yeah.
I did. And that was the goal.
But so the question though, in this context of leadership is what changed inside of you because you accepted the challenge,
Yes.
and how did it change you? And then how did that influence your leadership journey going forward?
So I
You're supposed to be interviewing me, but
well, no, I mean conversation, but I think being pushed to do something again that I said I would never do, um, because then it creates a marker of other things that I say in my mind, right? I can't do that or I'll never do that. You go back to that last win. And I think sometimes what you helped me do in that was create an intentional win
yeah,
that I could then take it to business. I could take it to personal life. I could take it to fitness or to anything. And I go back to that moment and say, hang on, I did do something I didn't think I could do.
correct.
It wasn't pretty.
Yeah,
It was not pretty,
doesn't matter.
but I did it.
Yeah,
And I actually didn't die.
yeah,
It was actually okay, right? But you have a really, I think what makes you, Brett, so good in those moments, number one, of coming up with that, because something you asked me prompted that to come out of me, right? And to hold me accountable to going on that journey. But you're also very willing to be uncomfortable. Like
yeah,
you will sit with somebody and probe and dig. And I think most people, myself included, are way too quick to let somebody off the hook because they don't like that feeling of discomfort. How did you learn that? Or do you just enjoy being uncomfortable and awkward, Brett? Or what?
no,
Talk about
I
that because it really is a unique skill that makes this your superpower, in my opinion.
how did I learn it? I don't know that I have an answer to that. I am
But you're being
aware
interviewed
of
for a
it.
podcast. You're
I
supposed to have
understand.
all the
I'm supposed
answers.
to have all the.
Yeah.
I'm very aware of it, and I think in leadership, you have to stand in a gap, and sometimes that means sitting in silence and you've all heard let silence do the heavy lifting. It's really awkward to sit in
Yeah.
silence, yet silence is a very powerful tool, right? But standing in the gap is just willing to stand in a place of awkward or uncomfortable
Hmm.
because you know that your commitment to stand there causes greatness to happen.
Yeah.
Because without it, you let people off the hook. You land in the easy path. You land in the less friction path, right? And standing in that gap, and what I mean, I use the phrase standing in the gap, but it literally just means standing between somebody and you're standing for their greatness, and people fight really hard for their limitations.
Yeah.
And you got to stand in between that.
Yeah.
And that's what great leaders do. That's what great coaches do.
Mhm.
I think that's what great friends do. It's literally, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you make it sound like it's comfortable to me.
I don't know.
It's not comfortable
You
to
act like
me,
you enjoy it, Brett. Not
but
gonna lie.
here's the thing. How proud am I to know that you went and rode that bike that day?
Yeah.
So that created an intentional win, but I have a Rolodex of intentional wins that remind me how important it is to do that.
Yeah.
And if you've never done it, go create one.
Yeah.
But at some point in time, you will have a Rolodex of potential wins that you helped people accomplish, servant leadership,
Hmm.
that actually becomes that motivation for you to continue to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, one of the challenges of people development is people.
Yeah.
Um,
People.
and I think so many times in the leadership journey, there's such high highs, but there's also low lows, right? There's also times where people disappoint you or hurt you, you invest in them and there's no gratitude, right? Like there's
Well,
all kinds of highs and lows. How do you navigate that as a leader? How have you developed people and maybe they've really surprised you, both positive or negative?
yeah.
And how do you power through that as a leader?
Yeah. Journaling. So, when somebody signs on for a leader, they're usually attracted to the wins and the success stories and the standing on the stage and
Yeah.
all the fun stuff. But you forget that there's going to be moments of tragedy. You forget there's going to be moments of crisis. And what you learn later is those actually turn out to be your most proud moments. of your journey.
Yeah.
Not the time you stood on stage, but when you led a group of people through crisis, or you helped a group of people go through a tragedy, right?
Mhm.
Um, and it's not something that you really prepare for,
Yeah.
but it actually becomes part of your proudest
Yeah.
part of your journey, right?
Well, I think it's what changes us the most, right? It's the hard times, it's the trenches, and it's the only way you can really learn it is to be in it.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you think about sports figures. We all know who's won the most Super Bowls or the most NBA
I
championships.
really don't, but
I understand, everybody but Teresa knows.
yeah.
But what you're attracted to is not the fact that they stood on the podium or got the
Yeah.
trophy or that. You're actually attracted to the storyline of what trials and tribulations they
It's true.
took to get there.
Yeah.
And you could watch The Last Dance with Michael Jordan. It's the whole, the down and dirty of what
Mhm.
went on behind the scenes, and that is great story. And you think about that in your own context. What's your great story? It's not what you're doing here winning.
Yeah.
It's all this stuff in one conversation at a time
Yeah.
you took on the journey.
It's the day to day.
It's the day to day.
So what's the biggest mistake people make in developing people?
Trying to control people.
Mm. Talk about that.
The reality is, I think most human beings wake up and try to find some semblance of control in their life. And you tend to want to control people, yet you have absolutely no control of people. And that's the bottom line.
Yep.
And the reality is you can inspire them, you can motivate
Mm.
them, you can hold them accountable, but you really don't have control.
Yeah.
And once you finally get that into your brain, it changes your approach,
Mhm.
right? Because we're in real estate, and I don't want to say people own people because that has a bad context, but they tend to show up like they own people.
Mhm.
They're mine. That's my assistant. That's my
Mm.
team agent, or that agent belongs to my brokerage. We don't own anybody.
Right.
They choose and we choose, and there's a mutual choice that keeps us all in business
Yeah.
together. Yet, this concept of servant leadership, if I'm doing a really good job of inspiring somebody, helping them live the life they want to live, helping them get what they want to get,
Mhm.
ultimately my world will get bigger.
Yeah.
Because people see that, and that's actually what's most attractive,
Mhm.
is when you're a leader that is helping a whole lot of people get what they want.
Mhm.
Everybody else is gonna look around going, "Nobody's helping me. I need to go over there. They'll help me get what
Yeah.
I want,
Yeah.
but I can't control you."
Yeah.
That's the downside.
Well, and I think you kind of brought it full circle with the idea of servant leadership
Yeah.
because it is really hard to control somebody that you're serving,
Yeah.
right? Like that just doesn't that's the antidote, if you
Yep.
will, to that kind of spirit or mindset of control.
Yeah. But we all want it.
Yes.
Want it. We're
Sure.
human.
Yes.
Control my world.
Yes.
We all want it. It's just not feasible.
Yeah. Well, I think as a parent, you realize that very quickly, that people cannot be, I mean, even children really can't totally be controlled. You realize that the first time that they go running the opposite direction from you in public, and you're like,
Okay. I'm in control.
you can do this.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you create a culture of personal growth? And I think we have this in Keller Williams in our organization. I think that is one of the things that makes us very unique and different is that there is overall a culture of personal growth. But how do you within your organizations and with your teams and how do you create that culture and then cause people to take ownership of their own growth?
Yeah. So there's this concept of either being in a silo, which just means that I'm by myself, I'm in my world, and I stay in my world. And I might see you or talk to you, but my world's my world.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this concept of fostering a team culture.
Yeah.
And what a team culture means, what doesn't mean we have to be in business together,
Mm-hmm.
but it has to mean I actually care about your success and you care about my success. And when you can create the magic of a team fostered culture
Mhm.
where people care about each other's success and has zero benefit to them personally, that's the magic. That's the secret sauce. That's the culture
Yeah.
that allows people to really thrive and succeed at the highest level because they don't want to let people down.
Yeah.
And even though they're not in business together, like literally, I have a text chain with 5 guys that we have a daily physical health
Okay.
check-in
Yeah.
challenge, and I have to post every day in this little thing. I don't have to, I choose to.
Sure.
But I know the principle of that whole culture is I don't want to let those guys down.
Right.
And I also know they're watching me.
Mhm.
They have no personal motivation in me doing what I'm supposed to do, but that fostered culture actually creates the secret sauce.
Yeah. And that's such a special thing when you have that. Okay, so this is a Chat GPT question,
Oh, Lord.
but I thought it was kind of fun, so we're going to ask it. Okay. So if leadership were a sport, what position would you play? And
Yeah.
why?
So ChatGPT, great question.
Yeah.
And Theresa Flood, great
Zelda.
question.
Zelda.
Hey, by the way, AI makes everything great, and
It
it's going so fast. So
it is.
I
No
appreciate the
shame.
question.
Yeah.
No shame. What position would I play? Coach.
Okay.
And here's why. If you were a quarterback, you can put on the Superman cape and go save the day.
Yep.
And at the end of it all, you can only control what you can do. And you're still in a team culture and
Mhm.
you're in a great position to go make a difference and influence the game. Yet the coach is different.
Mhm.
The coach can only win through the success of other
Yeah.
people's performance. And um, if I had to really pick one, my first blank was, oh, I'd rather be the quarterback. But I think the coach winning
Mhm.
actually has a deeper fulfillment because he won through others
Mm.
than the quarterback's fulfillment of I did it.
Well, it's almost like every player on the team, he gets every single one of those wins.
Yeah.
And that happens somewhat with team too, no doubt. But um, that ability, there's a lot of times, and you can see this in the real estate industry, somebody is a great producer. They
Yeah.
know how to sell real estate, they understand production. And then when they're ready to go to that next level of starting to hire and build a team, it is a completely different skill set from being able to go out and take a listing to being able to succeed through others.
Correct.
And that coaching and leadership skill is a totally different it's a different journey that we have to go on, right? But it is an incredibly fulfilling journey.
I agree. To me, I think some people would absolutely choose to be the quarterback.
Yeah. And
Or-
you can be a leader at a
Yeah.
quarterback level.
100%.
And a great coach is going to make sure that their team is full of a bunch of leaders at their positions, right?
100%.
Yeah.
But to me, I judged my answer based on what would give me the most fulfillment.
Yeah.
And I think the most fulfillment would be being the coach, knowing I actually created the championship or the success through everybody else's performance.
Okay, so go back to your younger self.
Uh-huh.
I know you're very young still, but your younger self. What piece of advice would you give to Brett Caldwell in his 20s about leadership?
I think it's probably what we've already said is you can't control people.
Yeah.
I think every stumble in my journey thus far probably has a common thread where I was trying to control instead of inspire or motivate.
Mm.
I was trying to control something,
Mhm.
and that's probably where I stumble the most.
Which is also very stressful because when we're
Well,
trying
yeah.
to control something we can't control, I mean, that's just going to rob the energy and the joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so leave us with something, Brett. Inspire all of our growing leaders, our existing leaders. Like, what are you learning right now? Like, how is your leadership being challenged? Challenge me in my leadership.
Be a Theresa Flood.
Oh, please try again.
Uh, I mean, it's age-old principles. The 2 things that change your life the most are the people you meet and the books you read. Now it's 3 things. The people you meet, the books you read, and the podcasts you listen.
Yes.
So, But the reality is, leadership is not there's not new leadership concepts coming out all the time. It's more just a practice of your practice of leadership. So
Mhm.
the question is, where do you need the work? So in leadership, you've got to learn how to help people discover what greatness looks like and stand in the gap for them. You've got to probably develop some coaching and consulting skills because that's how you
Mm.
help people get
Yep.
what's best for them. But you're just on this journey and it's not that complicated, but you've got to jump off the cliff. And what I mean by that is, if you're in real estate, if you're an individual producer, at some point in time, you probably need to hire an assistant.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? You're a leader now. You have somebody that works for you.
Yeah.
Or if you're looking to build a team, one of the conversations that lands in a team leader's office all the time, I don't want to manage people. I
Mhm.
don't want to have anything to do with people. Well, don't manage people, lead people,
Mhm.
help people win, and you will win. But you do have to jump off the cliff
Yeah.
and just go for it because it's never organically going to show up in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think there is the realization too that the only way you have to do it to grow. You can read every leadership book in the world, listen to every podcast, interview everybody, but until you actually step up, and I don't necessarily mean a position or a role, but until you start leading people and building influence, whether that's at home with your family and your children, whether that's in your community, whether that's in your business or a larger stage, it's a practice of leadership. I
Yeah.
love that you said that.
Yeah.
We have to go out there and practice it,
Yeah.
which means won't be perfect.
Well, I mean, you might say, oh, Brett, you're a leader. Well, by some definition, I am, but
Mhm.
internally, I'm probably not even half the way there on my journey,
Yeah.
right? Like we're still always working to improve. We're still always working to uh, take status quo and make it better.
Yeah.
There's no journey. There's no destination to it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the never ending. Well, thank
Like,
you for joining me.
yeah. Can we talk about one other thing?
Maybe.
We have a bet going.
You're hilarious.
Uh-huh.
We're working on that, Brett
All right.
Caldwell. We're
Wait.
working on it. Okay, we're gonna
8 years later.
8 years later. You are ruthless.
Okay.
Just edit this part out. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so where should everybody follow you? On all the socials.
Instagram's easy.
Okay.
Brett M. Caldwell is my little tag. M
Yep.
for middle, or you can throw my middle name in there if you want it. But
Got it.
Brett M. Caldwell at Instagram.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you
Thank
for your leadership in our company, but mostly in my life and my family. My girls say hello.
Yes,
Tell your beautiful wife hello.
will do.
We miss you guys living here in Dallas.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining another episode of the Upside Podcast, where we believe that when you invest in your life and your business every single day, it will yield you great returns. Please subscribe to TheresaFlood.com. That's spelled Theresa with an H. There's a Flood.com. I'll put you on my very special VIP mailing address list. Well, not mailing address, email list. I
Yeah.
like mailing to your home. That would
Subscribe.
be subscribe. Yeah. Awesome.